Hey, didn't you know? It's Metro. That's my new intro. You guys like it? So today we're going to be taking a look at a new dungeon. One that was designed by an infant. Or perhaps a troll. Some of the most absurd bosses you'll ever see in the video game World of Warcraft are contained within. And as you see in the beginning here, you actually can't get in here very easily as Horde. You need a warlock, I guess, or something. I'm not really sure what the problem is here, but there's like an invisible wall. Presumably, maybe there's some kind of scene. Apparently, if you do this on Alliance, it's all different. Trash leading up to this first boss, etc. I don't know. Definitely bugged. This dungeon definitely not working perfectly. I would say that. I mean, the fact that everything's so red as well. I think that kind of goes without saying that I'm not in love with this place just because it's so red. But anyway, I come in this dungeon. Didn't realize this was a boss. You're going to see why out of the gate. Pretty absurd encounter. Basically, the boss can't be tanked effectively. He just does this thing where it's kind of funny actually, because you know we did the other dungeons where there's bosses that can be kited, but this boss has to be kited from what I could tell. Like you can't really tank him because he's gonna knock you back every time he hits you, and he does like an immense amount of damage. So I mean, I guess it's possible, quote unquote, possible to tank him, but realistically, you're not gonna be able to stay in melee range of him. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to kite him over these bombs, but I had no idea that this was even a boss. So that obviously doesn't go well. But now for a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about this boss, why I think it's a pretty weird encounter, but, you know, we'll try to see the good. So now, about 2 hours later, we finally, we got a replacement for somebody who left, and finally ready to take a more serious approach at this. So basically what you have to do is you have to kite him, and there's these bombs in the ground. And if he runs over the bomb, he takes an incredible amount of damage. Like I think it's like 15% of his health, and he kind of gets staggered for a bit. And this really helps you, but it also removes a stacking speed increase. You see how he moves very slow right now, but eventually he's going to get faster. Every second, I think he's getting faster. Okay, so if he runs over a bomb, that goes away, as you see right there. Perfect. So that goes away. He takes increased damage. He takes damage from the bomb itself, and all is good in the world. Now, the reason I say this is one of the dumbest fights ever is, first of all, you see there, it's based on threat. So if I'm kiting, I'm not doing any threat to the mob. So now he's picked a new tank, and he's ran at him, completely unbeknownst to the mage. He now is dead because of it. So I'm sitting here spamming taunt and spamming like diseases on him just to kind of keep threat. But again, he's on somebody else, unbeknownst to them, and it's pretty much wiping us. Bombs are going off constantly. And if the bomb doesn't get soaked, so, you know, the bomb is going to get spawned by those cannon barrages. It's like kind of like clear circle. There's like two different types of circles. And from what I can tell, there's the clear circle, which spawns a bomb. And then you see that clear circle there. That's going to spawn a bomb. And then there's a red, like a full circle. You see that one there. That's going to do damage. So you just got to avoid the damage ones, obviously. Then he's also going to do this ability where he just kind of sits here and puts a chain on you. He doesn't move. So it can be very, very troll when you're trying to kite him into a bomb. He's 1 yard away from the bomb and stops to do that mechanic. Now the bomb is going to explode. So I might go in to soak it. And by the time I get back in to soak it, he's back to his phase again. And he melees me and kills me. So yeah, this fight is unbelievably absurd. Honestly, if you ask me, it's quite absurd. Asking a tank to do this job is ridiculous. And I think, you know, maybe there's a possibility that non-tanks will do it. Because frankly, you know, a hunter, any real range with mobility, but especially a hunter, like a BM hunter or something like that, they could really do it well. They could do it way better than me. Anybody with ranged, you know, abilities, you shouldn't really get hit unless you actually get too close to them. So, you know, why would you ever get too close to them? As a hunter, it'd be very easy. But anyway, I do have one more pull to show you guys where we actually kill it. And what we ended up doing was we ended up CCing these ads. So there's also these ads in this encounter. There's a whole nother depth to the encounter. The fact that it's not just kite him around in circles is kind of enough to make me not interested in the fight. But anyway, so we CC the ads. We're going to basically not deal with the ads. And like I said, there's a whole nother depth to these ads that I could talk about. But realistically, this is the only thing I really want to talk about today is these bombs. Now, another problem here is the bombs are extremely small. They're basically smaller than him. And if he does not run directly into them, they don't explode, okay? So basically what we're doing here, we're saying, all right, forget the ads. Just run the guy, you know, do your best to do it. So anyway, that one's going to explode, so I run into it. If it does explode, if nobody hits it, including the boss, it will do it like 50% of our health and damage, which, you know, again, we're under geared, so whatever. Although realistically at this point, we're not even that under geared. Some of the videos I've made on this topic, I've been less geared for sure. But anyway, yeah, we're crushing him. He doesn't actually have that much health because you're kind of meant to deal with the ads. So it does kind of actually end up presenting a pretty interesting idea here, where if you're smart, you could avoid pretty much all the mechanics on this fight. And he's literally just running around in circles. You're not taking any damage. You know, if you had enough CC and enough control, these ads would never become a problem, and you'd be able to nuke down the boss quickly. But for me, the biggest problem here as a Blood Death Knight is the lack of mobility. And as you see there, if I have to turn him and I don't have Wraith Walk, it's almost impossible. Whereas like a Vengeance Demon Hunter or really any other tank would have some type of, you know, really quick mobility on a relatively short cooldown that would then be able to turn him on a dime, right? So for example, I'm kiting him, the bombs are spawning. You saw this live. Hopefully you guys see, you've seen this. You try to run him towards one direction, but the bombs are on the other side. So I have to turn him around, like you see, kind of like right here. And it's really difficult to navigate it in a way that he's going to run over that bomb. But we do manage to get it. I mean, I cut out probably at least 10 attempts, at least an hour worth of wiping on this boss. And frankly, I don't really like this fight because, like I said, I'm not tanking. I'm not a tank. You know what I mean? The tank should not be kiting for 100% of the encounter. So I don't know. Maybe there's other, you know, like I said, if you have a hunter and it works the same way it does right now on live, you should really just have the hunter do it. And then the tank could pick up the ads. And maybe that's what they want you to do, but I'm not really sure because one way or the other, I ended up doing it. And as a Blood DK, it is absolutely miserable. Like I said, you know, Wraith Walk and whatever, March of the Damned or whatever that's called now, Death's Advance, they are not enough. You don't have enough mobility. You don't have enough snap movement. You can't quickly get from one side to the other. But anyway, we can do the trash now. This trash is there's pretty much nothing to talk about on trash here at all. Frankly, the trash was extremely easy compared to the bosses. So this will be your cathedral, perhaps, where the bosses are all extremely complicated, all very much pains in the ass, especially for the tank. Really, if there was one thing I could say, this dungeon is very tank unfriendly, melee unfriendly too. Very, 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 very melee unfriendly. But it's even worse for the tank when you're trying to build resources to keep yourself alive and not just do damage. That really adds up. And it was frustrating, I have to tell you that. This is the first dungeon I did on the beta that I did not enjoy doing. But the fact that we cleared it, you know, it's good. It's a remarkable dungeon for that reason, that it's actually very complicated. And I have to tell you this, you know, as soon as I walked in here, I said, you know what this place looks like? Undead Stratholme. And then we did the dungeon, and 2 hours later, I'm like, yo, you know what? They really did listen to people who said they want Classic back. Look at this. So here you go. Just like in live strat, there's a mob type there that is going to shoot down a hallway that you have to be very careful of. Otherwise, you're going to die. And then when I do get in range of it, it tries to run away from me. That's fun. You'll see that again shortly here. But yeah, obviously, you do not... Oh, and then I fall in the water like a noob. That's unfortunate. Luckily, we have a Warlock, although there is a way up around the side, but watch this. Pretty funny. Warlock portal OP. Anyway, so there's more trash over there. I'm not sure why that's there, but that's not the way you go. You go up here, you go across the bridge. This is, by the way, this is in the town, the main hub for the Alliance. It's quite interesting. The two Mythic-only dungeons are they're very well done thematically, because both take place in a very, very, very important lore elevation. I don't know. I'm trying to say, like, the lore is paramount importance to the video, also to the video, but also to the dungeon. It's quite important in both of these dungeons. So this is literally the hub. This is where, as an Alliance player, you might have your hearth set. And I imagine there'll be many quests here. I don't know. I didn't really do Tier Guard sound at all on Ally. But regardless, it's quite interesting. And, you know, you cross this bridge here. There's another one of those mobs, but they don't actually do the firing the gun thing at you, so you don't have to dodge it. And we just get to this other side here, and we just have to clear a little bit more trash, and then we get to the second boss, right? So you're thinking, you know, we're sitting here talking about the boss. Second boss coming up, no big deal. Can't possibly, no, that just can't possibly be as ridiculous as the first boss, right? There's just absolutely no way. Right? It can't possibly. No, but it is, frankly. And it's not as ridiculous from the tank roll, but you're going to see why I'm not really sure. We're going to have to talk about that fight. But anyway, lots of trash here. Not very dangerous. Kind of like fodder. Like I said, it really does feel like the trash just exceedingly easy compared to bosses in this dungeon. And again, I think a lot of imbalance is happening here. People said that this has been nerfed. Both the dungeons that I did on this Saturday afternoon here, they were nerfed. They were a lot more difficult at one point. So I wonder if maybe all Mythics have been that way. But anyway, here's the boss. All you need to know is that whenever you're in melee range, the boss will leave melee range. This seems to be 100% of the time, except times when it's rooted or snared. So that's what the debuff on her says. If she's rooted or snared, she will then not leave melee range and instead use clear the deck to knock you back. So one way or the other, as a tank, you are never going to be in melee range, effectively. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but I've did this fight twice, and both times she just constantly leaps away. And whenever you're not in melee range, she will then hit a different target. So people on the stream were just saying, forget it, just let her hit the other target. It's not like worth you running around, but I think that's how you're supposed to tank the fight. Like, I think you tanking the fight is dealing with these ridiculously uncomfortable mechanics. Okay, and then halfway, I don't know how it works, but she summons these ads. These ads are going to allow us to pick up some grenades. Apparently, you're going to take the grenade and then place it on the ship or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Again, really don't know. Didn't really get a lot out of the bosses here other than them being a real pains in the ass. But yeah, you pick it up, throw it on the ship or something like that, and it causes her to have to flee the ship because now, of course, ship has been exploded or something. I'm not sure, but anyway, those circles, pretty obtuse. There's quite a lot of them, quite difficult to dodge them all, and obviously lagging quite badly because of it. So anyway, we lost. I don't even care. Forget the boss. Look at, she's doing some damage to people, but she actually comes back to me. Now, I don't know if that's because somebody rooted or snared her. It's difficult to tell, as, you know, the stock UI doesn't really show that unless I think there's a way to turn it on. But regardless, it does not show that for me, so I'm not really sure why it's happening, but it is happening. And yeah, that's interesting. So she does run right back to me, and now she's not doing it, but now she's going to start knocking me back, which is fun. As you would see if you watch this live, constantly getting knocked back. I'm like, yeah, that could stop anytime, but she doesn't stop. She just keeps doing it. So luckily I have Disadvance. Disadvance is actually going to be a very, very, very useful ability. It's actually quite interesting when you think about it, because Blood Death Knight's obviously the most immobile tank without any question, but now they have something that will make them resistant to a knockback. So this will actually, there's actually quite a few mechanics that will not only knock you back, but might cast something on you that you might have to move out of and then get back into. So this ability is very flexible for that, and it's only a 30% speed increase, but you know, that adds up. Certainly adds up for the Blood Death Knight's kit. So whereas, say, somebody gets knocked out, the warrior then has to charge back in, etc. Vengeance Demon Hunter has to leap back in, etc. Blood Death Knight never even got knocked out of the place in the first place. So it's actually pretty cool. I don't know, do the other Death Knight specs have deaths? I assume they do. But anyway, there's some hose in here. I'm not really sure why. Then there's like a Murloc or something. I'm not really sure what's going on here. This trash, this dungeon itself makes no sense to me. Talk about, yeah, actually somebody just says it there. Ihenjar or whatever said that in the chat right there. I don't have any idea what's happening with the lore in this dungeon. I didn't play an Alliance, but what I assume to be happening based on the way the bosses are, who the bosses are, etc., is it's that like a human faction that's sided with Queen Ajara. I think it's the Ashvane guys, or Ashvane, or however you say it. I think those guys have sided with the Queen Ajara and potentially Old God related stuff. And it's kind of parallel to the Horde story. So the other dungeon is of course King's Rest, which we also did on Saturday. I make a video on that and get that uploaded soon as well. But that dungeon is the culmination of Zul's major plotline, who is effectively just a defector from the Zandalari Empire, traitor to it, and he's manipulating powerful Zandalari stuff to the blood god Gahun, which I still don't really understand is if Gahun's meant to be an old god related thing, or maybe a minion of an old god. I'm not really sure. Haven't been following too closely, although I have been following closer than, say, in Legion. Legion launched, I really knew nothing about the lore whatsoever. Didn't even really know Illidan was in the expansion until halfway through it. But anyway, yeah. So this whole dungeon storyline just doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not sure where this stuff has come from or why it's here. But yeah, this is actually a pretty, it looks like it's an open, like I said, the dungeon really looks like Undead Strat. And Stratholme in general, it looks like it, right? But it's not actually that curved. There's not a lot of curvature here. There's not a lot of different paths. It's actually quite linear. Although there are some dead ends, quite a few dead ends. And I guess that's kind of how Strath is too, really. There's not a lot of different ways that you could have gone in Strath. They all kind of take you to the same place. But anyway, I don't know. So yeah, you go up these stairs here. I think, yeah, stairs up here, and there's more trash up here. A lot of trash in this element, this part of the dungeon. But it does feel quite cool kind of walking through the city. And I'm assuming, making an assumption here, that this is exactly how the city is IRL. IRL, wow, did I just say that? This is exactly how the city is in the proper version of the world when it's not under siege. And I think that is outstanding. So I think I would appreciate this even more if I was in Alliance. And now here you're seeing the thumbnail, because I should have cut this out, but I didn't. Anyway, I took a screenshot for the thumbnail there. But anyway, you do kind of see, like, off in the distance that, you know, this is a war-torn area. And there's a cellar there that you can't go down because it's World of Warcraft, not Skyrim. But anyway, this is probably one of the most interesting areas here. And this is when it really dawned on me that we're playing Classic right now. We're not playing, you know, Warlords of Draenor and onward. This is Classic. This whole dungeon is Classic. So they put a room together where there's trash on 3 sides of it and a boss that patrols. When was the last time we've seen something like that? I really don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on that answer, because I don't know when the last time I've seen that is. But that is something that is in a lot of situations in Classic and TBC, where the boss patrols. And if you don't pull the trash properly, the boss will then prevent you from doing the fight because of trash. And that's actually going to happen even worse in this case. So I pulled 2 of the 3 packs, and there could definitely be more trash, but 2 of the 3 packs, and the 3rd pack aggroes immediately as soon as we aggro the boss, even though he's nowhere near it. So that means that it's leashed. So you simply can't skip this trash. It's not possible unless you maybe do some crazy CC stuff. I don't even know. But yeah, I'm really surprised by this. Like I said, this is we're basically not playing Modern WoW. We're basically playing Classic at this point with some of these dungeon ideas. And, you know, the way some of the mechanics work, pretty absurd. So this boss is kind of messy, obviously with the trash, not making it any easier. Just that frontal kind of like green glob smash thingy. I don't know. Dying mostly because of the trash, I think, at this point. But the boss is doing a lot of damage. And now he's going to cast an ability called Tidal Surge. Watch this one. Hey there, guys, it's Wall. It's Neltharian's, or OS +3 or whatever. And that it gets blocked by that statue in the middle of the room. I thought that at first I said, oh, wow, and it comes back. But it doesn't actually come back. It's 2 different casts of the same ability that come from different directions. So people were saying what you want to do is kite him, or at least stand by the Admiral's, whatever that statue is. But, you know, I guess that's probably the right choice. Like, having directly on top of the statue might be the best option, because then it's kind of just like he blocks it instead, so you never have to actually worry. You just, you know, rotate around it very quickly, and you never get hit by the waves. But I was thinking it was always going to come from the same direction, so we would make it, you know, give ourselves as much time to notice it as possible. But, I don't know, realistically, literally just get hit by everyone. Never actually hurts me. Obviously hurts the others probably a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's causing that much havoc. I guess they're dodging it for the most part. They're dodging it relatively well. But then he's doing all this crazy overhand, you know, like a normal sea giant type mechanic, smashing us with a club. It's literally wearing a ship for shoulder pads. I mean, what do you expect? You know what I mean? The guy's he's all brawn, no brains. Let's put it that way. But it's a cool encounter. I think it uses the room quite well, especially considering how the statue works. I think that's pretty unique. And then, of course, with the trash, the fact that the trash is tethered to the boss and the boss patrols. We have not seen that in a very long time, if you ask me. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear your guys' more clear thoughts on the matter, because I've clearly grown biased to this dungeon. By the end of this, I wanted, you know, I streamed for like 2.5 hours today. Normally I stream for like 4 to 5 hours. And after doing this dungeon, I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm done. Ended the stream like 1.5 to 2 hours early, just because this was such a frustrating dungeon that I just didn't even want to play the game anymore. And it's the first time, like I said, I've really been frustrated by something in WoW in a long time. And yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old days, man, where there was just, you know, a lot of stuff that could mess you up. So I think, you know, this dungeon is going to be a mess. I really do. I think in Mythic Plus, you're going to see a lot of people skipping this dungeon. And who knows what's supposed to go on in the beginning. Maybe the first boss is not going to work properly. But anyway, there's no trash. This is now the final boss. It's basically like, it kind of reminds you of Helya from Maw of Souls, obviously not the raid boss, but there's tentacles. One is a tankable tentacle, one is a damage tentacle. The grasping tentacle, I believe it's called. It's actually pretty similar names from Helya too, actually. Anyway, one of the tentacles grabs an NPC, and that NPC is going to allow us to use a cannon to deal the damage to the boss. Although the boss is damageable on our own too. So I don't know if that's worth our while. Probably not, because I think the tentacle just has way less health per, you know, like the tentacle is effectively going to take off like 30% of the boss's health. And the tentacle obviously has less than 30% of the boss's health. But, you know, if you're a double, you know, for like a dot class, probably a good idea to keep dots on everything. Although I don't think it will actually make the fight go quicker, because you're doing like such increments of the boss's health in a way that I don't think you could actually kill him one phase earlier. But maybe you could if you're really geared. Regardless, Mythic Plus, that's not going to happen. But anyway, it is a possibility. As you see, the boss is kind of, you know, just boring. It's really nothing going on. It definitely feels like it's unfinished in some way, but I don't know if it is. And now there's the cannon's fully armed. Nobody's getting in it, which kind of surprised. This is a pretty good group, minus this hunter. This guy's like pretty much useless. But playing survival, by the way, I don't know. And then anyway, you go across. Now, if you're in the water, you get a stack. And I think it's 5 or maybe 10 stacks, something like that. You basically die. A tentacle comes up and grabs you. And that you're going to see that here, because I don't know why the fuck these guys do this, but they run across the long way instead of going around from where we are. And what I did, I just used Path of Frost, because we weren't taking you're not taking any damage in that phase. The only damage that's being dealt is from these tentacles. And another weird thing about this was, if I didn't engage this tentacle, it would have not have even fought us. Whereas that's different from Helya. Obviously, once the tentacles come up, if you're behind, you know, the tentacle just is going to start doing its stuff. So I assume that's bugged. I assume that's not how it's meant to be. But anyway, you don't even have to interact with these tank tentacles. This boss is really actually very simple. You just kill 3 DPS tentacles and shoot a cannon at them, and that's the fight. But realistically, once you've engaged these tank tentacles, if you left, they do an AoE. If nobody's in range of them, they do an AoE, kind of like on Helya again, right? So, I don't know. A kind of a weird dungeon, I have to say that. A very strange dungeon. Feels like a different game's dungeon. Feels like a dungeon from a whole different video game. One that does not fit into what Mythic Plus and World of Warcraft looks like, engages like, proliferates like. I don't really know. Everything that you could possibly think of is different in this dungeon than in any other dungeon. So, frankly, I didn't enjoy it, but it's very unique, and I will eventually come to enjoy it, but it's probably going to be along the lines of Cathedral, where I hate it and never do it. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Otherwise, we will see you guys in the next video.